Hello everybody, it's Astral Hex Encounter. This is the third and final attempt at doing a little video about this game. I do have a new web camera and I'm trying to capture it live onto my computer or record it live on the computer and then do everything with it. For some reason it was successful once when I did some tests. But when I actually tried to film these videos, for some reason it wasn't working. So I'm hoping that things work. Fingers crossed. So in the past short while, I managed to finally grab myself a copy of this game, Ambush, and I also managed to find a copy of a game called City Fight that I will talk about kind of down the line once I kind of make it through this game. This one has been complex enough, not too bad though, but City Fight looks like quite an undertaking. That's some dense reading. Okay, so on to Ambush. As you can see there, a solitaire squad level World War II combat, France 1944. So that's one of the main reasons that this game appealed to me, was that exact thing. There was nothing to adapt as far as wanting to make it a solo game. This one is a solitaire game. It's designed and created to be a solitaire game. And I have to say, I'm just about to start mission 2. There's 8 missions total in this book for this first game. And I have to say that I absolutely love it. I'm not a huge fan of war type games, to be totally honest. I don't hate them. I don't actively pursue them. I do, however, like these kind of hex encounter games. And the subject matter that I usually lean towards, if you know the channel at all, is more kind of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, that type of thing. Something that's not really based in any sort of reality. Seems to work for me best. But that said, this game is so well designed, and it plays so nicely, and it is so much fun. That first mission was just so much fun. I absolutely loved it. So let's talk about kind of the basics on how it works. I'm not going to be doing game turns kind of video, because part of the way the solitaire game works is through this paragraph booklet. So when I was playing the Ares games, there was the one that really, sorry about that, knocking the camera around there. The one that really kind of stuck with me was Return of the Stainless Steel Rat. There was many of the Ares games that I liked. I just played Stainless Steel Rat again recently, in like, I don't know, a couple of months ago now, must have been. Now that I'm familiar with the system and the rules and how things work, especially once I got the kind of fighting down, it's a hell of a game. And just allowing the story to unfold and these opportunities for kind of these surprise elements to come at you, just because it is a paragraph game and it is, you enter a room, you reveal a paragraph, you see what happens, and you react. I really, really enjoyed myself playing that the last time. This does the exact same thing really well. Of course, with paragraph games, there are limitations for sure. But I think it still works. Especially with a game like this, you don't know what you're going to come across unless you get to the point where you're memorizing when a certain paragraph comes up. I think there's more than enough paragraphs in here that you're going to be surprised. So each mission has a set of these cards that come with it. These right here. These are condition cards. So they'll say on them the mission itself. So this is for mission 2. They're double-sided. Condition 3 on one side, condition 4 on the other side. This particular mission has 6 different conditions. The first mission that I played only had 4. And basically you have your letters for the rows, you have the numbers, You cross-reference, for example, if you can see there, M8, you line up those two, you look at the window, and it tells you this is sighting 2, and it's paragraph 118. I'll talk about sightings and stuff in a moment. The main number you're looking at is paragraph 118. So you go to 118, you do what it says. Sometimes you'll land on, let's see if we can find one. Sometimes you'll land on something like this, T13, for example. In the window, we get none, so nothing will happen. You'll also come across some spaces. Let's see if I can just slide it through and find one. There we go. That looks like O3. You get yourself an event, and you roll to see if an event takes place. And when you roll the dice, you roll both die, and whatever the number is, if it was 14, you'd line up the RE, random event, with number 14 and go to the window. And if it tells you to look somewhere, then that gets activated as well. So it's pretty straightforward. It's a very ingenious kind of way of doing that. I really like it. I really like the way that plays out. During the mission, you'll come across sightings. Once you've revealed a sighting, say we reveal sighting number 2 here, you cross it off of your, I'll bring it over here actually. There's a series of boxes for sightings. You cross it off. Once you've experienced a sighting, if it comes up in one of the windows again, you ignore it. You don't play it a second time. Even if you've changed your condition card and it comes up on a different condition card, you don't play the sighting again. So it only happens once during a game. It's like a special kind of event that'll only happen to your characters the one time. With conditions, there will be eventually a paragraph that tells you to move to another condition. In my first mission, I started on condition 1, reached a paragraph that told me to go to condition 3, completely bypassing condition 2. Once they've told you to skip one, you never go backwards. And it actually did happen to me that there was something that told me to go back to condition 2, but since I was in 3, you ignore the paragraph basically. What else can I tell you about that? Activation. There's activation rolls that you'll be asked to do depending on what condition you're in. This is the die roll that will activate German soldiers. If you have a successful activation, it'll tell you to go to a specific paragraph, and that's how you'll activate German soldiers. And when it tells you to activate a German soldier, it'll tell you go to GE1, or it'll tell you GE15, or it'll tell you GE26, and you look for their particular chits and you put them in place ready to kind of play. They tell you a bunch of details. +1 victory point if you, I think that's if you capture and or incapacitate or kill. I'll have to double check that actually. Because you can do a variety of things. In my last game, I actually incapacitated a German soldier and captured a German soldier. When you capture them, whatever items they happen to be carrying, this guy, for example, has a machine pistol. If you have a spot available, which are these ports here, I haven't outfitted my team yet for the second mission. If you have a port available, you can put the machine pistol or whatever weapon it happens to be in your port. If they're carrying things like grenades and you have an ammo section available, you can put the grenade in the ammo section. But then that one character is responsible for that German and kind of has to move along with him. There's a load of cards. Here's the stack here. So that's the stack of just the Germans. There is a small stack of US soldiers that can get activated. I haven't come across this yet, but the Germans, there's a huge stack of them, so the variety is there. How they randomize the Germans is pretty inventive as well too. It depends on what condition you're in, and it depends on what the die roll is. When it comes to activating a German and you put them on their track here, let's say we've activated this particular German. This track here charts our battle basically. We have 2 turns, we have 1 turn, we have panic, we have complete, and we have unaware and inactive. The yellow section is which group has the advantage, which means they get to go first, and the blue is disadvantage, so they get to go second. I don't want to go too far into the weeds on this. Needless to say, it just kind of tells you who's going to go first, who can act first, who has the upper hand. Once you activate a German, they go on to this, and depending on the die roll, let's say, for example, the Germans had the advantage and you rolled a 6, you put it there. The German activation number moves to 6, which means that's always where it is. So then you would look, for example, on this one, focus, thank you, come on, you can do it. New camera, autofocus, supposed to have it. It may be too dark in here. Is that giving you something? Sorry about that. If that is all out of focus, I apologize. Let's back it off a little bit there. So for example, here's the die roll 4 to 7, which is where our 6 lies. Depending on what condition you're in, here's 2 and 3. Here's number 4. It tells you which paragraph to go to. Special A and S. S is survival mode, which I believe is if a US soldier is in the same hex or right beside, maybe it's just in the same hex as the German soldier, they automatically default to their survival mode. I'm not sure what A is, to be honest. Yeah, so again, something else I'll have to read about. I can't remember what A was supposed to be on it. I don't think it came up in my first mission at all. Anyway, so that's kind of the rough breakdown of how a German comes in and what you do when they do enter. That's the basics of the fighting. So we have our character squad. So the other great thing about this is you can do campaign mode. So for my first mission, I created a bunch of characters, and these are the ones that are going to be playing with me, hopefully, through 8 missions. Your characters can die, so then when they do, you do get to replace them. You don't have to start from scratch again. The beauty, of course, of campaign mode is your characters kind of grow with the game. So you can see command points here. These are the command points that I got in the first round for completing the mission successfully. Once you get 6 of them, you can use them to upgrade a statistic, which I did for Sloan here, Commander Sloan. He had 6, and I decided to up his weapon skill to +2. These modifiers are basically for a die roll. This one specifically, your PC check, you have your DS, intuitive, and then movement point allowance is 4. The movement point allowance is something that you can never change. They'll always have the same movement point allowance. You can upgrade these stats by spending 6 command points. So that's really great as well because, you know, I don't know, it gets you more involved with your characters. You can see them growing with you. Every time you do generate a new game, you do kind of roll for some new weapons points, which does allow you to buy different weapons for each game. I'm trying that with the second one. I was kind of hoping that their weapons would come with us, and I could use these to maybe, if you expend some ammo, some clips or something, maybe the command or the weapons points rather would be able to kind of refill your ammunition. Whatever you don't spend here, you don't get to hold over. Whatever you get with command points, you do get to hold over. So those 4 points will kind of carry over until I get a lot more and start spending them basically. You can keep track of your victory points here. You can lose points if one of your characters becomes incapacitated or dies. If he does become incapacitated, with some of the missions, there is a way that if you drag them off the board, or off the map rather, you can kind of save them. With this particular game, there's another out for me to kind of save my incapacitated soldiers and not lose any points. Spot for keeping notes. This is just for this one particular mission. If I enter these hexes here, I get 1 victory point for each of these hexes. So I kind of have just written them down, and I can cross them off as I go, so I don't have to keep referring to the map. The map itself, there's 2 of them. This particular mission calls for map B rather. So this is the one that I have going right now. The map design is fantastic, as it is with most of these games. It's always one of the highlights for me for these older Hex Encounter kind of games. I really just like the design. I like the minimal aspect of it. This particular one, these tree hexes, are really fantastic. I would love to recreate some of these myself. I've got some ideas on a little project down the line. Anyway, when you're moving, you start off in operations mode, and in operations mode, every single time your characters enter a hex, you do a paragraph check. So they move 1 hex at a time, 1 hex at a time. I'm starting off in 2 distinct groups. My plan is to kind of come in together and then split off. We have to investigate every single one of the buildings, so I'm going to have this group kind of come up here, and we're all going to meet at the train station. Whoops, sorry, that's not on camera. We're all going to meet at the train station up here eventually, so I'm going to have them kind of spread and join up again. Hopefully, we'll get there by the end of the game, before the end conditions kind of get implemented. The other thing you can see here is here's all your charts and tables for weapons, for assault table, equipment cost, combat modifiers, clearing your jammed weapon. There's a possibility that your weapon will be jammed, movement point, cost chart, etc., etc. Yeah, and then a whole stack of counters up there for all various things. There's vehicles that will come into play with some of the missions as well. I haven't encountered that yet, but I'm sure that'll happen. So I didn't finish talking about this. So you're in operations mode. Once a German gets activated, then you're in your action round, and that's when things like the movement points come into play. That's when you start using this table up in the top corner here and actually getting into some combat. The action rounds continue until all the Germans are captured, incapacitated, or killed. Once that's done, you go back to operations mode, and you keep playing the same way you were previously until you kind of activate some more German soldiers again. I love that. I really do enjoy that. That part reminds me of Stainless Steel Rat as well. The fact of, it goes well with the theme of this game, which is ambush. So you never know when some Germans are going to pop up. So you're kind of creeping from hex to hex, and eventually something is going to happen to your squad. That's kind of the overview. I don't know if I want to go into much more detail than that. The only thing I'll just kind of reiterate is that it's a hell of a fun game. That first mission was unbelievably fun. There was a building in there it played on map A. There was a building in there where some Germans got activated, and that was probably one of the most fun little encounters that I've had in any of these style of games that I've played over the recent years. Just the way that it kind of revealed itself, the way I kind of tackled the situation, the way my characters reacted, threw a grenade in through the window, which caused the Germans to panic and just kind of go prone, laying on the ground. I was able to bring in one of my other squad, or 2 of my other squad members, in through the door, incapacitated one German and captured the other German. It was just a really intense little moment of gameplay that worked out incredibly well. Obviously, it makes it more fun because it worked out in my favor. But regardless of that, I think even if I wouldn't have succeeded, it's still just the way the paragraphs worked and the way they got activated and the way it kind of interacted with my characters was amazing. Really, really amazing. So you can find this game on Board Game Geek, reasonably priced for the most part, especially if you have some patience. You can find yourself a half-decent copy. This one wasn't completely punched yet, so I did have to kind of finish it off and did my usual clipping of the counters for aesthetic's sake. There are expansions to this. I believe there's 3 expansions. The expansions go for quite a bit of money. Those are very pricey from what I've seen, averaging I think around $100 US per expansion, and they don't pop up as much. For now, this is plenty of game for me. I don't know if I'll ever, well, I shouldn't say that. Who knows what'll happen. We'll see what happens once I'm finished the 8 missions in here in about a year. Although the way I'm kind of attacking this now, I think it's going to be much sooner than that. I'm thinking about this game throughout the day, basically, waiting till I can come back to it and kind of give it another play. So this is the first time I've had to kind of set it up on the table in 2 days, and I've been jonesing for it these past 2 days. So I'm looking forward to getting into it for about an hour here before I go to bed. So that's it. That's the broad strokes. That's Ambush. This is Astral Hex Encounter. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for joining me. And I'll check in with you again eventually when I start to tackle City Fight. And kind of give you a little bit of a run through for that. The other thing I'll say about Ambush quickly is that Board Game Geek, there are a number of videos up. If you don't want anything spoiled, there are a number of videos where they go through the gameplay. Maybe don't watch those, but there are more than enough videos where they kind of go through some of the basics as I've done if you want to see some other people's opinions and insights. A number of those people being kind of a little more hardcore war gamers, so they may be able to tell you something that I was unable to pass on due to my insufficient knowledge. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and we'll talk to you real soon.